Well, we are back from the winter break at Lokomotive Leipzig and we have some new balling midfielder going into the second half of the season. Coming up today, we take on Eintracht Frankfurt in a second versus third clash in the Bundesliga, and then we play Juventus in our last game of the Champions League phase. Can we sneak ourselves a spot inside the top 8 to make our way straight through to the round of 16? Hello everyone and welcome to episode 106 of the Leipzig Loko with Lokomotive Leipzig here on Sean Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and coming up today we take on Eintracht Frankfurt in the Bundesliga, and off the back of taking on Real Madrid off camera, we play our last game of the Champions League phase at home to a struggling Juventus. And also, as mentioned in the intro, we have signed a new ball-winning midfielder, so if you're looking forward to all that coming up in today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated, but we've gone for a little bit off the back of the end of last week. We took on Dortmund in the Bundesliga and also Basel in the Champions League. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it in the top right corner. Since then, our form has been good for the most part, albeit right off the back of that Dortmund game, we unfortunately did drop points away at Cologne, a team in the bottom half of the table. Early goalie Nicolo Amadori, but unfortunately at the half-hour mark we conceded one from Justin Falkenweiss. That was a bit frustrating off the back of that 2-0 win at home over top of the table Dortmund, albeit when you look at the stats from this game, can't really argue with that scoreline, even though the XG is quite heavily in our favour. Overall stats do suggest that was quite an even game, so a point away from home there. Not too bad. Cologne probably deserved to get something out of that game, but thankfully off the back of that, going into today's episode, either side of the winter break, we have won 4 games in the Bundesliga over Wolfsburg and Hoffenheim before the break. That 4-1 win over Wolfsburg in particular being quite good, because we lost to those guys early in the season away from home, and they are up near the top end of the Bundesliga table. That was 1-1 going into the second half of this game, but then a 5-minute spell around the 60-minute mark, and we put this game to bed. Goals to Matthias Tunde Musa, and also an own goal from a Blomier strike, which did look like he should have got credit for that goal, but we pick up a 4-1 win. That is the main thing. Escobar did pick up an injury in that game, but thankfully he is back off the back of the winter break and also fairly comfortable again at home there, 2-0 over Hoffenheim. And off the back of the break, we took on Hanover. Those guys not doing too well this season, just having come up from the 2 Bundesliga, picked up a very comfortable 4-0 win there, and then took on Freiburg, who are also struggling in the third round of the DFB Pokal, this one away from home. And thankfully, with our first team players being available off the back of the winter break for this round, we picked up a 2-0 win, goals to Amadori early and to Zoran late. Some good results off the back of last episode, apart from that one against Cologne. And it does mean going in to today's episode in the Bundesliga, we'll update you guys on the Champions League going into that second game of today's episode off the back of that one where we do take on Real Madrid away from home. But in the Bundesliga, we have just snuck our way up to second above Eintracht Frankfurt on goal differential. To be fair, based on stats, if we go back to the home page, goals scored and goals conceded, we should be a team up near the top of the Bundesliga, and thankfully that is the case. Just 1 point behind Dortmund, albeit they do have a game in hand in Eintracht Frankfurt in that same situation, but hopefully we can pick up a win here, even though this one is away from home, mainly because Bayern Munich are well and truly now right back in the title race, only 1 point behind us and Eintracht Frankfurt. And to be fair, a little bit of a gap to the likes of Schalke and Wolfsburg, who are in those other European spots at the moment. It's a bit of a 4-horse race going in to the second part of the season, but hopefully we can pick up a big win away from home here first up in today's episode, and maybe jump above Borussia Dortmund, even though that might be for a brief period of time, because they play later on this day as they take on Fortuna Dusseldorf. But before we get stuck in to this first game of today's episode, there has been just a little bit of transfer business so far in the January transfer window. To be fair, most of it has been in relation to the second team, getting rid of some players who weren't worth too much from that one. But we have signed a player just because Manuel's contract is expiring at the end of the season, our backup ball-wing midfielder, and there were options to improve on him. We had about £8 million left in our transfer budget, so I thought we'd sign a player just in case someone did come in for Manuel around deadline day, and then we could potentially sell him early to actually get some money for him instead of letting him go on a free transfer. And the player that we have signed out of Blackburn was Colm Edgar. Now, to be fair, when I was signing him, our scouts told me he had 4-star potential. So they've lied to me, but still, he's definitely an upgrade on Manuel. Not quite as good as Justin Blomé, but certainly an upgrade in that area. We paid around $9 million for him overall, but about $7.5 million up front. Decent balling midfielder, as I said, a little bit of an upgrade on Manuel. So it does mean now that Manuel is not registered for the Champions League for the second part of that season. So that's the reason I'm kind of hoping someone does come in for him. But so far, Edgar, one game and got a 7.2 off of the bench. So he started his career off well, but comes into our team here having done a decent job since leaving Manchester United in the Championship for Blackburn. Hopefully that ends up being a decent transfer for the last little part of this save, and maybe he can help us try and pick up the Bundesliga this season, because it does look like at the moment we have a chance, especially if we can pick up a win over Eintracht Frankfurt. There's the one main transfer that we have done for the first team in the January window so far. Don't expect to see too much more because there's not much left in the budget unless, as I said, someone does come in for Manuel on a pre-contract and we can sell him ahead of time for a little bit of money. That might just top us up a little bit more, so we could potentially sign a young wonder kid. But first up to date, it's a second versus third clash in the Bundesliga. We take on Eintracht Frankfurt from memory. I'm pretty sure we bet them at home earlier this year. That's been the theme so far in the Bundesliga. Indeed, that was the case. An early penalty and late goal to Matthias Tell did mean we picked up a 2-0 win over our former senior affiliate, albeit with this one being away from home. This could be just a little bit tougher. They come into this one having lost to Mainz first up off the back of the winter break before just getting over Augsburg in the third round of the DFB Pokal. So to be fair, their form since coming back from the winter break, not that great, but overall they're in pretty good touch here, are Eintracht Frankfurt. But hopefully our recent form is just a little bit better than theirs, so we can pick up at least a point here away from home, albeit they are going with a 5 at the back system. So that is something which could be interesting here, especially trying to break it down away from home. And hopefully we can do a decent job here because our team is pretty close to full strength going to this first game of today's episode. Just that one change. Escobar only recommended for 45 minutes, still coming back from that injury. So it does mean that Bundok does start in his place. Also Edgar obviously on the bench over Manuel. But apart from that, it's our first choice 11 that we did have going into the start of this season. Also Velarde had an injury coming back from the winter break, but he should be available if we need to use him off of the bench. Amadori certainly still our first choice striker. He's been in great touch this season. Should be good next year on Football Manager when I can sign players because they are good players. Unlike what we've done in this save, we would just sign Velarde basically because he's an Amadori clone, albeit he does still have quite a bit of potential. But I have seen the set piece overhaul. It looks very, very good for FM24 based on what I've seen so far. So definitely looking forward to that next year, or in a couple of weeks' time, I should say. But we'll get the game underway here. Early corner to Eintracht Frankfurt. Thankfully, Benito heads that one away. Sicker does quite well there. Now a chance for Tezak to do something on the counter-attack. So an early chance for us here to get on the front foot. Makes his way down that right-hand side here. Just takes his time, gets pressured a little bit there by a Frankfurt player. But thankfully, we do keep hold of the ball. Blowing a little bit slow on it though. And somehow Eintracht Frankfurt got that one briefly, but thankfully we did keep it. Now Benito's a bit slow on the ball, and a chance here for Eintracht Frankfurt to do something on the counter-attack. Galagos is in behind. He puts that one away, but I'm pretty sure he was offside. A proper offside, not like what I saw earlier today in the Liverpool game when I'm recording this. Good work there, the English referees, because that wasn't really too flash, but that has been correctly awarded as offside. He's just a foot offside in that one. They've actually drawn the lines. You can see he's offside. Maybe think of that, English referees. But thankfully, a little bit of an early lapse there, and it is still 0-0, but not an encouraging start to be fair. A little bit slow on the ball. Hopefully, that is not a trend that does continue. Also, Pittman, he picks up a yellow card, so he might be coming off at half-time. De Jong might be coming on in his place. We'll just get him to ease off tackles for the remainder of this first half, but around the 20-minute mark, and we do have a throw-in down that far side. Now, Pittman on the ball on that yellow card, plays that back to Osvaldo. A little bit of a risky option. That pass there, though, is actually quite good for Matthias Tell, but then looks for Benito. That is cut out by an Eintracht Frankfurt defender. Good work there, though, from Sicker to break up that ball over the top, albeit Frankfurt are back in possession. Gulda plays that one out to Tuta, and it looks like here Eintracht Frankfurt might just be getting the rub of the green here early in this game. Nice ball over the top there for Buonanotte that time. He was onside, but San Jose comes up with a very good save. So thankfully still locked up here at 0-0 at the 20-minute mark so far. Both chances have fallen to the home team. Thankfully, just found a way to deal with them, albeit one was through offside. We deal with the danger from that corner, albeit they are still in possession, albeit at that time Buonanotte is offside. So about halfway through the first half, still locked up here at 0-0. Hopefully we can start to get on the front foot soon, because so far it's fair to say we have been on the back foot just a little bit, giving the ball away a bit softly as we make our way past the half-hour mark. Yet again, we are in possession. Hopefully this time we can actually hold on to the ball, as I said, and do something on the attack. Now Bundok plays that one to Blomé. Bit of a risky pass back there, not that much on it, but thankfully Hurtado reads it well, and Benito does get in behind that ball. Somehow finds its way through Jay Gorta. That shot was very, very weak, but it's found its way into the back of the net. It's our first chance of the game off the back of some good ones to Eintracht Frankfurt, and we go 1-0 up just past the half-hour mark. Pretty fortunate there that Hurtado did keep the ball for us. Benito with a shot, it takes deflection off a defender, but still, I think Gorta should be saving that one, because it was a very weak shot off the back of that deflection. But we go 1-0 up, and to be fair to Eintracht Frankfurt, they can feel a little bit hard done by that as we make our way late into the first half, and that will do it. To be fair, stats-wise, we actually got back into that game quite nicely in the latter part of that first half. So we go into the sheds with that 1-0 lead. Not quite as strange as it did seem when Benito did score that goal. We're going to take off here Pittman at halftime on that yellow card for De Jong, and also Tunde Musa can come on for Matthias Tell only on a 6.4. We'll just make sure that Dirk De Jong is not easing off tackles. We'll tell the guys they're doing well, but can definitely do better, because it was a pretty scratchy first half, truth be told. Eintracht Frankfurt a little bit unfortunate not to score a goal, but very happy with the scoreline. This would take us briefly top of the Bundesliga, and a win away from home against these teams who are near the top would be very, very good indeed, because these have been the games so far this season that we have struggled in just a little bit as we make our way now up towards the hour mark, and we still have that 1-0 lead. Just time to check in on some player fitness, but to be fair, everyone is on a decent heart still, and no one on a poor rating. So we'll leave things for now and get back into the last half hour of this game. But so far the second half hasn't been up too much, but with 20 minutes left, Justin Blomé, he picks up a yellow card, and now quite a few players are down 2 red hearts. I think we'll sort out the defensive end of the pitch first. We'll bring on Vochin for Sika. We'll give our new signing Egger some game time for the yellow carded Blomé, and also Escobar can come on in that game time for Bundok on that red hearts. We'll just make sure that midfield and defence is nice and fresh for the last 20 minutes of this game, so we can hopefully hold on to this 1-goal lead off the back of those subs. There is a highlight, our new signing Edgar on the ball and finds Vochin in a bit of space down that right-hand side. Good run from him here too. Makes his way inside the box. Bit of a loose touch there, but Tuta with a slide tackle, it falls back to Vochin, puts that one into the mixer as a shot, but it's blocked, and it does allow Eintracht Frankfurt to clear the lines. We now make our way into the last 10 minutes of this game. Escobar picks up a yellow card. We'll just get him to go on to defend for these last 10 minutes, and also we'll start to time waste just a little bit, slow the pace down, so hopefully we can hold on and pick up, as I said before, a big 3 points for us in this Bundesliga season, especially, as I said, in a game that is away from home, the ones that so far this season we have been struggling in. But to be fair, the second half hasn't been up to too much highlights-wise, but we don't mind, because it looks like we are going to hold on and pick up a 1-0 win. Indeed, we do that. Slightly fortunate goal to Nico Benito is the difference maker. All our defence played well, at least the players that came on in the second half anyway, and we pick up a 1-0 win. They had a goal ruled out for offside there. Did Eintracht Frankfurt early, but to be fair, just a straight offside off the back of that. San Jose made a good save. Then Benito scored the goal off the back of that. The game was pretty quiet, but thankfully we get the rub of the green with that fortunate goal going through the legs of Jay Gorta. And as I said, we pick up a big 3 points, which for now will put us on top of the Bundesliga table. And hopefully that's a spot that we can make our own for the rest of the season, albeit still some tough games to play in, as well as that Dortmund do have a couple of games in hand, so they will probably go back above us, considering the next one later on this match day is against Fortuna Düsseldorf. But for now, we're top of the Bundesliga. We'll come back shortly, show you guys highlights from the Real Madrid game, and set up the situation going to that final day of the Champions League phase as we take on Juventus. And we are back about to take on Juventus in our final game of the Champions League league phase. But before then, we did take on Real Madrid. Before this, quite a bit of stuff happened in favour of Real Madrid, but they were a bit unlucky. But then Amadori goes down the right end and scores a goal for us, albeit a bit of an interesting save there from the Real Madrid goalkeeper. It hits his wrist, but goes in the back of net. Then in the second half, Colin Edgar scores his first goal for the club, bundling that one over then. Bit poor at the back there, and Valverde puts one away in injury time, but we pick up a 2-1 win over Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. A very big result, as you'll see shortly, going into this final match day. But also, this probably shows you more what happened in the first half around that Amadori goal. Rodrigo offside goal ruled out, another one at the half-hour mark, and then later in the first half, another one ruled out. So they were threatening to score, albeit thankfully, when they did, they were well offside. Also, we gave away a soft penalty around the 20-minute mark. San Jose came up with a save, so that game could have gone a lot worse. Pretty fortunate, kind of like the early stages of that Eintracht Frankfurt game, but thankfully we pick up a 1-goal win, a big one, as I said, against Real Madrid away from home. It does mean now they cannot make their way into the round of 16 automatically. They'll have to make their way through to that stage through the first knockout playoff round. But what the table does look like before we take on a Juventus team who can't even reach the top 24, we're in 5th place now, so we've jumped up into that top 8. So it does mean if we pick up a win here, or even maybe a draw, that might be enough for us to make our way straight through to the round of 16, which at least for me makes things a lot easier for the rest of this week if we do go quite deep into the Champions League. But we take on a Juventus team who are really struggling all the way down in 28th. Not even a win here would see them make their way into that top 24, so they have nothing to play for in this game, and also struggling in Serie A down in 6th. So this is not a very good Juventus team. Hopefully we can make the most of that and beat them with this one being at our home stadium. It's actually a game at our home stadium as well for the first time in the Champions League. I believe that's because if we have a look at the schedule for the Champions League on this match day, we'll just go and have a look at the fixtures. And I thought it must be because RB Leipzig were playing at home on the same day as we were, but that is not the case. They're actually the following day, and even then they are away from home, so a big chance for us here in our first Champions League game at home at the Bruno Plack Stadion to make an impact and go straight through to that round of 16, especially against the Juventus team who are struggling quite a bit. We did actually rest both our centre-backs in that Real Madrid game as well, because they are both tied off the back of those previous games, including that one against Eintracht Frankfurt. So that was a very good result. We're a bit closer to full strength for the second game, though, of today's episode. We do take on Juventus. Escobar is now capable of playing a full game, so he is in there over Bundok in the midfield. And also, we've got Hurtado back, but not Osvaldo. So it does mean that Camillo will keep his place at centre-back, but instead of Montes, it will be Hurtado, just making sure that Osvaldo doesn't get injured, because he is a very injury-prone player, kind of like Escobar when he is on that heavy workload. So we'll play things safe. If we need to, we can use him off of the bench, albeit to be fair, Montes a little bit less injury prone, so might be a safer option. And hopefully with the way Juventus are going in the Champions League this season, that is the option that we can use. But hopefully we can pick up a point from this game, or hopefully 3, and a win here would guarantee ourselves a spot in that round of 16. So it does mean we could skip forward over that first knockout playoff round, which of course we did have to contest in the Europa League last season. But there you can see at the Bruno Plack Stadion for the first time in the Champions League instead of the RB Arena. To be fair, looks like quite a few of these stands have been closed off, which is not ideal, so it won't be too much of a crowd. Probably not too good for us in terms of the gate, but we'll keep an eye here on the other games on this match day. But to be fair, if we win, doesn't matter what happens in those other games, we go through to the round of 16. But there is still a chance here that if we lose, that some other results do help us make our way through to that round of 16 anyway. An early highlight there in favour of Juventus, but thankfully they blast that one wide early stages. They've had more shots, but thankfully not too many of those have been on target. It does seem like at the moment with this tactic, it's taking us just a little while to get warmed into our games, around about half an hour or so before we get on the front foot, and then we start to kick into gear in the last hour of a game. Yet again, Pittman, he picks up a yellow card, so again De Jong might feature a bit for us in the second half. We're starting to get on the front foot in this game, as I suggested we've been doing over the last little while, but early stages, not much happening in this game highlight-wise, apart from that chance to Juventus. Matthias Taylor with a free kick. That one goes a bit closer the most he's done recently, but unfortunately still hits the corner post, and it is still 0-0. Now a free kick to Juventus, albeit great work that time from Justin Blome, and a chance for us to do something here on the counter-attack, but unfortunately a Juventus defender gets in the way of that ball before Matthias Tell. A little bit iffy passing though, and Sicker wins that one there. Escobar plays that one over for Josip Tezak. He plays it forward for Amadori Benito with a big chance. He was onside as well. Thought he might just be off there for a brief second, but unfortunately best chance of the first half, and it does go bigging, and that was it for the first half, 0-0. But as you can see, we growed into that quite a bit as the first half did wear on, so hopefully we can grab a goal in the second. We'll take off those players who are on yellow cards. De Jong can come on for Pittman. We could bring on Osvaldo, but as I said, he is quite injury prone, so it's probably a better option here instead of bringing on Osvaldo and him getting injured to bring on Montes. To be fair, they did a decent job in that Real Madrid game, him and Camillo. We may as well give them a run, and also we might take off Tezak on that 6.5 for Spaliak. So a couple of changes here to hopefully get us on the front foot in the second half, and we'll get the action back underway here, still locked up at 0-0. As I said earlier, I think a point from this game might still be enough for us to make our way into that round of 16 if some other results do go away. Also, I'll make sure that De Jong is not easing off tackles, seeing as Pittman was on that yellow card. An early highlight here, we are on the attack, albeit Amadori a little bit loose on the ball. Batterina, nice pass there to Sposito before De Jong can close him down. Now Batterina back on the ball, cuts inside nicely, takes a shot, but thankfully someone gets a touch on that. Might have been Camillo, and it falls to San Jose quite kindly. So Juventus getting some shots off, but thankfully not too threatening. And as it works out, taking off Pittman wasn't really worthwhile because it's only been a few minutes until we have to get our left back to ease off tackles again, as Dirk de Jong is on a yellow card. But coming to the hour mark, still 0-0. Just checking on player fitness, and Nico playing quite well, but is on a red card. So Zoran can come on for him. I think that's all we need to do for the moment. Everyone else out there on a decent enough rating with a half hour left. Hopefully, those fresh legs from Zoran can grab us a goal, but there's a free kick here in favour of Juventus. Todibo plays that one out to the right back on a yellow card. So a couple of fullbacks there on yellow cards in this game, but Todibo on the ball, a little bit sloppy though, and Blome wins that one off him. Now Tell back to Blome, nice one to Matthias Tell from a tight angle. We'll try and put that one back of the net. Maybe could have looked there for a teammate, but unfortunately that one does come off the post. Then gets a chance for a header, but good save there from the Juventus goalkeeper, and it is still 0-0. And shortly off the back of that though, there is another highlight. Juventus look to play their way up from the back, but Spaliak wins that ball. Now Tell does get in behind this time. Can we find someone inside the box? Good short passing, and Spaliak with a really nice finish there. Looked like it might have been with the outside of his right foot to just curve that one inside the far post, and we eventually do grab a 1-0 lead here in our last game of the Champions League league phase, and that could be a goal which does make sure we go through to the round of 16. Good short passing there, a little bit poor at the back. Juventus trying to make their way out off the back of those chances to Matthias Tell. This time he helps to create a goal, and it's a good one there to Spaliak with about 25 minutes left. We do take a 1-0 lead, and as you can see, that will be enough for us to go straight through to that round of 16. We'll just check on player fitness. We'll take off Escobar on that red heart. As we've said a few times this season, is a player who can get quite injury prone quite easily. So Bandok can come on for him, and with 20 minutes left, we do have a 1-0 lead. And that would be quite good if we could skip that first knockout playoff round, because it would mean we can focus more on the Bundesliga for a little while. Quite important that could be if we are in a title fight with some teams who might not be in that same position. We'll just get on the time-wasting stuff here with around 10 minutes left, and also chuck Bandok on to defend as that deep-line playmaker. We make our way into 4 minutes of added time. There is a late highlight here. Juventus on the attack, but thankfully De Jong can break this up, and hopefully we can just keep hold of the ball, play things safe, and make sure we hold on to our 1-0 lead. A little bit iffy on the ball, but Matthias Tell does get it back there. Really good individual effort, and this time he puts that one top right corner. We should have been a little bit safer there in trying to keep hold of the ball, but thankfully it pays off. We make it 2-0, and with only a couple of seconds left, that will absolutely make sure we are going through to the round of 16, the Champions League. Todibo hasn't been too great today, and Matthias Tell, after giving the ball away, robs it off me. Also get the tug and continues going. Very good individual goal edge from Matthias Tell. We pick up a 2-0 win in our first Champions League game at the Bruno Pluck Stadion, which is nice. If you look at the stats, we probably deserved that scoreline as well. So a good performance, even though it did take us a little while to get on the score sheet through Spelljak, and then Matthias Tell grabbed that buffer with only 1 minute left of added time. It's a pretty good performance. Would be nicer if we scored these goals a little bit earlier in games, but to be fair, we'll take it straight through the round of 16 in the Champions League, and hopefully that does mean we might play a weaker team when we do get into that round, unlike the situation we found ourselves in the Europa League last season. Also worth noting, some of the teams who will not be in that first knockout playoff round, some big names there, the likes of AC Milan, Porto and Juventus, already knocked out, but we thankfully are straight through to the round of 16 off the back of that 2-0 win over Juventus. So 2 big wins in those last 2 games of the league phase of the Champions League does mean we go straight through to the round of 16 as the 4th seed, and also we're the only German team who does that. So Bayern Munich, RB Leipzig and Borussia Dortmund, they have to contend with extra games in that first knockout playoff round. As I said, that could prove very, very valuable in the Bundesliga, so it does give us a little bit of a freshen up while they might be a little bit more tired. So hopefully we can make the most of that and maybe start to grab a gap on top of the Bundesliga. Worth noting that Borussia Dortmund, they've played those couple of games in hand that they had and have stuffed up just a little bit. They drew against both Fortuna Düsseldorf and Bayern Munich. That result against Bayern Munich very helpful for us because it does mean that now we are joint top with Borussia Dortmund, but above them thanks to our good goal differential. So at the moment, legitimately on top of the Bundesliga, and with that Champions League situation, that could just help us potentially grab a bit of a gap over the next little while before we do come back for that round of 16 tie in the Champions League in tomorrow's episode. But that will do it for today. Our new signing in the ball wing midfield role in Colm Egger, who during the course of today's episode did get his first goal, albeit in that game against Real Madrid, and also picked up a big win in the Bundesliga against Eintracht Frankfurt, and also those 2 in the Champions League against Real Madrid and Juventus, which does mean we are straight through to the round of 16. If you enjoyed today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. As I said, we'll come back tomorrow, and from here, as long as we're in it, we'll focus on the knockouts of the Champions League. Not too sure exactly when the round of 16 is going to be, but we'll come back for that in tomorrow's episode. Hopefully by that stage, might have grabbed a bit of a gap on top of the Bundesliga, as I said, with those teams like Dortmund and Bayern Munich in particular taking part in that first knockout playoff round. But we'll come back tomorrow, as I said, not too sure exactly when, and play the round of 16 in the Champions League. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.
Thought I could do this, left through the sadness.